She was under for 4 minutes. That is the number her father has repeated every time he has told this story, across 30 years and 4 separate tellings. 4 minutes. He pulled her out of the water at the sandbar, laid her on the dock, and she opened her eyes and looked at him. She was breathing. She was fine. She was, her mother said, completely fine. What her mother meant, what she could not quite say directly, but what everyone in the family understood, was that fine was the wrong word. Fine was not what she was. Fine would have meant crying, coughing, shaking, clinging. Fine would have looked like what you expect from an 8-year-old who just came back from 4 minutes under the surface of a Minnesota lake. What they got instead was something that wore the shape of fine without the substance of it. She sat on the dock and looked at the water. She did not speak for a long time, and when she finally did speak, it was to ask if she could go back in. Harlow Lake sits in the pine forest of northern Minnesota, approximately 60 miles northeast of Duluth. It is a private lake, small, cold, fed by underground springs that keep the temperature in the low 60s even in July. There is one cabin on the property. It was built in 1961, sold to a rental agency in 1978, and has been rented every summer since. The Delacroix family, parents Raymond and June, children Thomas aged 14, Claire aged 11, and Mara aged 8, had been renting it every July for 6 years when the summer of 1987 came. They knew the lake the way you know a place you have returned to every year for 6 years. They knew the dock, a weathered gray wood structure extending 30 feet from the shore, the boards warping slightly at the far end. They knew the sandbar 15 feet out, where the water came up to Thomas's waist and Mara could touch the bottom on her tiptoes. They knew the drop-off, the precise point about 20 feet past the sandbar, where the lake floor fell away and the water went from warm and shallow to cold and dark in the space of 2 steps. Raymond had told the children every year, "Don't go past the sandbar." The first 3 days were the same as every year before them. Swimming in the mornings, fishing in the afternoons, a fire after dinner. The water was calm, the weather was clear. On the evening of the 3rd day, Raymond photographed the 3 children on the dock, Thomas sitting at the edge with his feet in the water, Claire lying on her stomach reading, Mara standing at the far end with her arms out for balance, laughing at something. He still has the photograph. He says it is the last photograph in which Mara looks entirely like herself. The 4th morning, Mara was in the water at the sandbar alone. Thomas and Claire were still at the cabin. June was reading on the porch. Raymond was cleaning the fishing gear on the dock. He had eyes on her. He has said this many times. He had eyes on her the whole time. She went under. Children go under at sandbars. They trip, they dive, they slip. Raymond looked up from the gear, and she was gone. He was in the water before he had time to think. He found her at the bottom of the sandbar, not moving, eyes open, facing up. He pulled her to the surface. He laid her on the dock. He was counting. He knows it was 4 minutes because he counted. She opened her eyes. She looked at him. She said, "I'm okay, Daddy." Her voice was normal. Her color was normal. She was not coughing. She sat up on her own. June came running from the porch and held her and checked her over, and Mara let herself be held, but she was looking at the water the whole time. Looking at it the way you look at something you are waiting to get back to. They should have taken her to a hospital. Raymond has said this. They should have taken her the moment it happened. But she was breathing. She was responsive. She was the word keeps coming back. Fine. And it was a 60-mile drive to Duluth. And she said she felt fine, and so they didn't go. The change was not dramatic. It would have been easier if it had been dramatic. Easier to name, easier to act on. Instead, it was a series of small things that each had an explanation, and only became inexplicable in aggregate. She slept more. She had always been an early riser. That week she slept until 10, 11, once until nearly noon. She was quieter. Not sad, just quieter, more interior, as if some of the volume had been turned down. She stopped eating fish, which was notable because fish had been her favorite thing about the lake trips. She pushed it to the edge of her plate without explanation, and did not respond when asked about it. And she went to the dock at night. The first time June noticed, it was past midnight. She had gotten up for water and looked out the window and seen Mara's small figure at the end of the dock, standing completely still, facing the lake. June woke Raymond, and they went down together and brought her back inside. Mara said she had been sleepwalking. She said it the way children say things they have been told to say. June checked the cabin door after that. She found it unlocked each morning. On the 5th night, Raymond woke at 2 in the morning and lay still in the dark and listened. June was asleep. The cabin was quiet. He got up and checked the children's room. Thomas and Claire were in their beds. Mara's bed was empty. The cabin door was unlocked. He found her at the end of the dock. He has described the approach many times. The dock boards under his bare feet, the lake black on both sides, the sky clear and the stars very bright. Mara's small figure at the far end, standing completely still. He called her name. She did not respond. He walked to her and put his hand on her shoulder and said her name again. She turned around. Raymond Delacroix has told this story 4 times in 30 years. He told it to his brother in 1991. He told it to a therapist in 1998. He told it to a journalist researching disappearances on Minnesota lakes in 2009. He told it to his son Thomas in 2019, the night before Thomas's own daughter was born. Every time he has told it, he has stopped at this moment. He says, "She turned around." And then he says, "She was fine. She was absolutely fine." And then he looks away, and he does not say what he saw when she turned around. They left the next morning, packed without finishing the week, drove the 60 miles to Duluth, drove the further 300 miles home to Wisconsin without stopping, except for gas. Raymond says the drive was silent. He says he and June did not discuss what had happened at the dock. He says they have never discussed it, not once in the 35 years since. He says there is an agreement between them that does not need to be spoken. The cabin at Harlow Lake was rented the following July by a family from the Twin Cities. They left after 2 days. The rental agency's records from that year show only a terse notation. Guests departed early, no further details. The agency stopped renting the cabin in 1993. It has sat empty since. Raymond looked it up once on a map, years later, to confirm it was still there. It was. Mara is 45 now. She lives in suburban Ohio with her husband and 2 children, a boy and a girl. Her brother Thomas sees her every few years. He says she is completely normal, happy, a good mother, patient and attentive. He says there is only one thing he has ever noticed in all the years since Harlow Lake, only one thing that has stayed with him. She will not let her children swim in lakes, only pools. only water with walls and a visible bottom, water that has been treated and measured and contained. Her children have asked her why. She tells them she just prefers pools. She says it the way you say something you have said many times, the way you say something you have decided is enough of an answer. Thomas says she has never explained further. He says he has never asked her to. Harlow Lake is still there. The cabin is still on the property. The dock still extending 30 feet from the shore. The sandbar is still 15 feet out. The drop-off is still where it always was, the precise point where the warm, shallow water ends and the cold, dark begins. Raymond Delacroix died in 2021. He never finished the story. Whatever he saw when his 8-year-old daughter turned around at the end of that dock at 2 a.m. in the summer of 1987, he took it with him. His children have his effects. There are no notes. There is no written account. There is only the photograph from the third evening. Thomas, Claire, and Mara on the dock in the last light, and the particular way that Raymond, who kept everything, kept no photographs from any day after that one. The water is still cold. The drop-off is still there. And somewhere in a suburb of Ohio, a woman who went under a lake at 8 years old and came back 4 minutes later will not let her children swim anywhere she cannot see the bottom.